OMCA event. So where are you guys from, Kent?
No, we're from right outside Kent.
Oh.
We're like at college.
All right, so you guys know about the ballot initiative that's going on and how we're working really hard to make this a reality in 2012. Our campaign is absolutely still in the running to make it for 2012, which is really exciting. We've partnered with Progress Ohio. Progress Ohio is a campaign, they know exactly how to run a campaign. Our group was a small group of about 5 of us who got together and started working on this about a little over a year ago. Some of us about a year and a half ago, but the majority of our team is about a year ago. And our team consists of some professionals that have been in drug policy reform for up to 25 years. There's attorneys, we have physicians, we have businessmen. So we have a whole really wide variety of people that are involved with the writing of this language. And when we started working on this ballot initiative, it was a very different energy that exists right now with medical marijuana. Are you guys aware of what happened yesterday with the medical marijuana world? There's a school, yeah. There's a school in California. That's my phone. There's a school in California called Osterdam, and Osterdam teaches the cannabinoid sciences and agriculture. That's what it teaches. Sure. It teaches agriculture, which is growing of plants. They don't sell anything. They teach to make sure that there's no mold on the plants. They teach how you recognize that. They teach if you recognize it says bugs on the plant. No, it's a school. Yesterday, the DEA and the IRS went in and raided them. At the same time, and there were supposedly a couple hundred federal agents there, okay, armed, into a school that they broke down and they went in. Same time that was going on, there was a school being shot up. The feds called in the police in riot gear to where all these advocates were, and some of these advocates are in wheelchairs, people with canes, you know. They had to line up to let the Oakland police lined up in riot gear to get the feds out. So they were there at a medical school instead of being where the school of people were shot. So to me, that's an absolute waste of our tax money. You know, I can't understand. I actually was one of those people that called Barack Obama at the White House a bitch. You know, and I can't understand how we can stress education to our children and then we can't study a thing. And that was, I think, the most poignant fact that I made to the office. So, you know, this is getting to be ridiculous. The amount of tax money that we're spending, the amount of tax money that we're wasting. Also, in some of my research that I've done recently, I started reading about cancer drugs, and I started reading about how much they cost. It was something like, I can't quote for sure, so please, these are just estimates because I don't know the exact number, but it's something like $80,000 for a 10-month course of a cancer drug. Okay, and the patient gets the bargain price of deductible, right, which is what, $1,000, maybe $2,000, $3,000, or you're paying 80%. Who pays all the rest of that money? Right? The insurance company gives it to the pharmaceutical company. Okay? What do? They just pass it. They don't give money. They're funding money. I see it. I start looking at it and go, isn't this what the banks did with mortgages? You know, I'm very off topic. I apologize, but this is something that just came to me recently, and I started thinking about how much we're actually going to affect Ohio when we change this law. How much we're going to affect by creating an $860 million a year industry. How much are we going to affect our future generations by studying the plant? I did meet with Gary Johnson recently, and that was great. We were with him for about an hour. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's hopefully going to be the Libertarian Party candidate for president from New Mexico. He's the former governor of New Mexico, and believes that we need to have marijuana legalization. Absolutely, avid believer in that. And what he said was, and what his belief is that during Prohibition, back in the day, we were beer drinkers. That's what the United States were. They were beer drinkers. And then Prohibition came on. So when Prohibition came on, we started making our own moonshine. We So we got hard alcohol because of prohibition. Okay, make sense? Marijuana prohibition, we have hard drugs. So marijuana prohibition. He put that two and two together for me. I never really thought of that. He also said that it's balance. He believes that it's balance. That's what marijuana can do to the body. I thought a lot about that too, and I thought about what I know that medical marijuana does now. I thought about what the oil does and how the oil, you can put it on a diabetic ulcer, and in a couple of weeks a diabetic ulcer clears up. Is that creating some sort of a balance on the skin so that the skin can come together? You know, these are questions I would love to have answered. Until we pass this ballot, we can't answer any of these questions. Until the Fed actually allows us to study this plant, we can't answer it. When I was in Colorado recently, I met Rick Dobler, and he's with MAPS, and he's been around a long time. And he was telling me that the FDA has approved studies on medical marijuana. DEA, not. So that even our FDA wants this done, and they're friendly to it. You know, I'm not the friendliest person with the FDA. I question some of their judgment. For example, Percocet and Vicodin have been recommended by their advisors to be pulled, but they're still being used. That was in 2009, so I have a little questionable. But if they're recommending that we study medical marijuana, then I think we should, you know, we should step up to the plate and get it studied. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about the campaign or where we're at. I'd be more than happy to answer any of them. What we're doing right now is we're reaching out to a lot of key people, not necessarily in politics, but in different medical areas, and for endorsements and getting a phenomenal reception. It's better than we could have ever anticipated. You know, if you build it, they will come. That's a philosophy that's true. They do come because we have quite amazing ballot language and quite the right energy with what's been going on in the last couple of months. So, any questions? I'd love to answer some.
Michigan has its legal program. I've been hearing people say that it's some paper state, basically. How's that going with them? I know it's kind of recent, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 2008. It was 2010. I apologize, I don't know that off the top of my head. But I know they passed it by 20 points, over 20 points, double digits. You know, that's a pretty big thing. And then all the states that are surrounding us either are doing some type of a ballot initiative or it's in their legislature. So, you know, we're right in the mix with all of them, you know. And you know, not many states are able to do a ballot initiative for a constitutional amendment. That's something that's very important. This is an amendment to the Constitution. Most of the other states have initiated statutes or have bills that go through. And to actually amend the Constitution is a very, to me and to our team, when we decided to go this route, we looked at the Constitution and we're so respectful of the Constitution. That to amend this important piece of our history, we wanted to make sure that we did it right. So we went through and we read it and we saw how it was written and in what type of scenery is the right word. But we wanted to have the whole aura of the amendment look like something that came back from, you know, George Washington wrote it or something. You know, that's what we were looking at. When we looked at some of the more recent ballot initiatives, we noticed that some of them were very wordy, and they put a lot of words and added pages into our Constitution. And we didn't think that was, we know that there are some people that didn't vote, for example, for the casino amendment, because what it actually was doing, creating an industry in our Constitution. Okay, that's actually what it did. And I know some people that we work with didn't vote for it for that reason. Not that they were against it, it was just solely because it didn't like what we did to our Constitution. And we really wanted to avoid that. And we wanted to also make sure that whatever industry we create, it's flexible as studies are done and as research is done. And if by chance big industry comes in and takes over, not just Ohio, but the country with marijuana, with our ballot line, our patients are protected. We are requiring confidentiality in the state of Ohio. You're not going to go on the list that the ATF has. You're not going to be able to go on those lists.
I had a question, I think it was under section 2 that confused me. So you're saying...
Which section is it?
I think it's section 2, limitations. This is a question I've had for a while. I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but rather than in Michigan where they have like, as opposed to like electives or whatnot, you have caregivers that can provide you with your medicine. In this bill or amendment, would commercial growing be admitted, or?
We're allowing for the commission to set up whatever type of regulatory business structure that they believe.
Oh, so
We
it's
think
still...
that there should be, we can't, we don't even know who the commissioners are going to be yet.
Okay.
There's 5 people that are going to be picking the 9 commissioners, but I'm sure I'm one of those 5 people, and we're not going to be putting people in there that are going to make it difficult for patients. We're always going to put our patients' rights first.
Okay.
Do I believe one of the great things that we have about Ohio is our Ohio Revised Code, okay? And there's a lot that's working in that Ohio Revised Code, and a lot that we can implement medical marijuana by using the Ohio Revised Code. One of the parts of the Ohio Revised Code is the liquor control regulatory system, which is the most cost-effective system, regulatory system in the United States. So what they allow is 477 stores, 1 store per county, and then for every 30,000 people, another store. So to me, that sounds like a good plan. You know, that's me though, and you know. So I think we leave that more towards a lot of very smart people in our state. We can look more towards some of the businessmen and see how things are going to be run. But because of the way our constitutional amendment is written, our patients' rights are always going to be kept first. It's not like somebody can get on the commission and then change it all up and then totally screw the patients, because you know the patients can always discover their own. And you know, but there's people like me, I don't want to do that. I'd rather go to the store. I'd go on and go talk to somebody and tell them what's wrong with me. If it's not working right, because I have a really bad back, if it's not working right, you know, have that person who's selling to me, this is my dream as a patient, have that person who's selling to me know what they're selling, know what the CBD content is, know what the THC content is, and if we have to tweak it to know what works best and keeps my body in balance best, you know, that's what I foresee, that's what I'd like to see.
Just so that everybody's aware too, I've heard you give the presentation before, and a key feature that jumped out at me in this amendment was that the state, because it's defining rights essentially, and that's how it works, then the state of Ohio has to defend its citizens if the feds come in and decide to try to intervene or raid or whatever. And I love that feature because they don't have that in the other states, California, other places where the feds are coming in. The state's not able to do anything, not doing anything. But here, you're required to, which is great.
You know, we don't know what that means. We don't know.
Okay.
You know, we're kind of like throwing the glitter in the air, see what happens, see what it means. But one thing we know for sure is that California and across the nation, they're able to go into the states because they're because of the commerce clause. Right now, there's some stuff going on with the health care reform, Obamacare, right? There's a case, the Angel Race case, and I don't remember exactly the year that it was in. It was kind of recently. And the justices decided that intra-state commerce was supposed to the same as inter-state commerce, okay? So they're saying that the commerce clause trumps state law. That's why they're able to go into the states, okay? Well, we have an amendment, because the Commerce Clause trump amendment? You know, we don't know. We don't know, but the question is there, and it's a lot of the attorneys, you know, people that are getting involved are really looking at this saying, hey, when you give a group of patients rights, does the Commerce Clause trump states' patients' rights? So
Nothing else, we'll get a decision on that and see where the feds stand. Kind of take it from there.
and take it from there, but it could be a game changer. Again, Ohio, the swing state, this language could be a game changer, and it wasn't created like that, and we didn't do it on purpose. It came out of somebody saying, and we went in with initial ballot language, which was like 17 pages, where we created the entire industry using the Ohio Master Code. When we were denied, which we knew we were going to be, we just wanted to show the legislatures what we wanted, what we expected from them. Somebody said to me, you know, what exactly do you want? What do you want? And what I said right there was, I don't want to be discriminated against because I use marijuana. That's really what it is. So he said to me, go with that. So I went home and told it to one of my other people that I'm working with. And she said that she came up with the term chemical bigotry about 10 years ago. And she wrote about that just because you have a different chemical in your body, that means you can be discriminated against. So when I brought that to her, she started her wheels turning, so she went her direction and I went mine. And my direction was going back to what I was used to, how revised code. And I went into it and typed in discrimination and disability, and I found out it's all defined under the Civil Rights Commission. So under the Civil Rights Commission, disability patients are defined as cancer patients, MS patients, you know, patients with compromised immune systems, HIV, AIDS, multiple muscular skeletal conditions, which is what I have. So what they've basically done, the conclusion that I came to, is they're taking all of these patients, disability patients, as defined in Ohio, and forcing them on addictive drugs, or pushing addictive drugs on them, rather than letting them have a natural healing herb. And that's a violation of their right. And if you look also at the Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have it on here. There's a spot in it, I mean, it says that we have the right to liberty, a couple other things. I apologize for not having it off the top of my head. I've got lots of things in there, but unfortunately not that. But one of the rights that we have is the right to safety. Okay? And you think about it in multiple ways when you're dealing with medical marijuana, or you're dealing with any medication, especially medical marijuana. Safety means if I decide to grow my own, I'm a sick person, am I safe when the cops come barreling down and then shoot my dog and scare the shit out of my kids? That's not safety. I can't have safety with that. This is what's going on. Then I also look at safety as in I have to go take addictive drugs and are lethal. That's another violation of the Constitution that I'm coming up. I'm pulling that out and pointing that out. And I mean, what's happening is ridiculous. There's so many people and so many pills. Until you actually step away from it and look at it, they're starting kids on pills at like 6, 5, 7. That's the new gateway drug, Ritalin. It's not marijuana. It's Ritalin. And then after that, I think some kids, you get that bumped up Ritalin. Did you guys hear about that? I saw that on TV right when I was getting my kids ready for school the other day. It was, is the Ritalin not your ADHD medicine not working? Well, try this, boop, and bump it up. I don't know what it was. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's kind of like, you know how the depression pills, and then, hey, it's not working, I'll take some pills now, But wait 6 weeks, because the chemistry in your brain takes 6 weeks to change before you might get happy, but you might not be happy. So we'll wait 6 weeks and find out, well, if you get the joint, guess what? I'm not saying that, I'm saying it's going to always make you happy, but I'm going to say that the colors seem brighter, and things taste a little better, and when you're sick, and being sick can be very depressing, and if you are depressed and sick and on opiates, you don't really want to eat. I know, I lived that life for a while. You just don't want to do anything. You just want to kind of sleep. was way, and I think back to, you know, I keep trying to take everything back to almost to a very common sense approach. You know, first grade, we all learned, maybe some in kindergarten, if you were in the, maybe second grade, depending on the school you were at, but blood carries oxygen and nutrition to the body. If you're taking pills that slow your respiration, slows everything down, then oxygen and nutrition is not getting to the parts of the body that it needs to get to. That's what happens when you're taking the opiates, everything slows down. If you're going to take something that heightens your senses, you're going to want to eat. It's you're going to want to, therefore, your body's going to get nutrition, as long as you have the right food in the house. I mean, if you're eating McDonald's. I guess what is the right food when you're sick, right? Because sometimes eating anything is good. But yeah, so there's my thought when it comes to the senses. I think it's very intriguing that we would even start studying it and start seeing how the different hormones in the body react to cannabinoids. I would like to know that. I'd like to know why it's working. Why is my inflammation down in my body that I can get up and do whatever I need to do? I mean, when I hurt, I just kind of play around. But I'm not passed out in bed on opiates. And 3 years ago, I was on 12 Percocets a day. I couldn't move. I'm now the executive director of a political action committee. So, which is that? Opiates, cannabinoids. That kind of answers it. So where we're at right now is we're in fundraising mode, and we're talking to lots of people. We're getting ready to, we partnered with Progress Ohio, which is a campaign running firm. Not really a campaign running firm, I know that's not the way to do it. They know what to do, they've run campaigns before. So they are organizing our 500 volunteers that we have. We have some professionals that have volunteered for us. And they are putting us in front of different people for endorsements. They know who to go to, they know how to do all the strategy, and things seem to be taken off. So we have one more month to fundraise before we start collecting our signatures in the beginning of May. And we have a campaign, or a signature gathering company in the wings waiting. So we're very much so focused still on getting this done in 2012.
Worried about minors getting hold of it. What do they do?
So what we're really looking to do is take care of our sick, dying, and disabled, so that somebody's a grandmother doesn't have to get their grandchild to go buy it illegally. We want a grandmother to be able to go to the store to get it. So that's what we really are focused on. And we know that there was a study done in Rhode Island. It was a 12-year study that said that teen usage doesn't change with medical marijuana. So the teen usage is still there, and the numbers don't change just because of medical marijuana. Instead, it takes the sick, dying, disabled off having to buy it on the black market. It puts them in where it's regulated and it's controlled and it's taxed. And so we can make sure that our sick and dying are getting the best product that they can get, because we want to make sure that it's tailored to them. An AIDS patient may need something different than a patient who has seizures. So really, that's what we're really looking at.
And if I could just make a little comment on that, think about the black market that's created right now. Right now, it's easier for minors to get marijuana than to get alcohol, because they have to walk up to a counter, show their identification, but for this, it'd be, regulating. So there would be those measures taken to verify that the person, the user, was of age and everything.
And we're also, we're looking at tighter regulations than the tobacco industry. There is no tobacco commission. We don't do that in Ohio. We're trying to get, a little bit more control over what's going on. So, we're looking a little bit tighter than anybody can come in and do a ballot initiative, guys. That's reality. I did it with 5 people. I was able to do it. We have phenomenal language that the patient is taken care of first. Thank God I'm on this side, because if I was on the other side, for example, if I was working for agents that don't want this ballot, I would pass ballot language that maybe had a very short route length. or that would screw everybody over, okay? If I was working for a company, a corporation, where they could pay me millions of dollars to write ballot language and pass it, or at least write it and then get it passed, and I get millions of dollars to pass it, but I require a certain chemical composition of the soil. That's what patients in Ohio would get. Instead, we have rights. This is the patient's rights are first. And it's so important to keep our patients' rights first. Because again, anybody can come in and do what we did. You know, so many people can come in and do it, you know, with the heart and making sure that we do keep the patient's rights first and have the foresight to look at even 20, 30, 40 years down the line. We don't even know who's going to be prescribing it, recommending it, whatever the word is going to be. We don't know who that's going to be. So we don't even use the word physicians in here. Maybe it's going to be nurse practitioners who work in hospitals. If we put that in an amendment to the Constitution, we can't change it. The only way to trump an amendment is with an amendment. So, you know, we left even that open, which just said that we, as patients, have the right to access goods and services. And the commission will define those goods and services for us.
So what happens if they stack the commission and basically make it where you're almost unable to do it? I mean, isn't that kind of what the bill was in Arizona? And they basically made medical cannabis not even worth it, or New Mexico. I mean.
Well, what we've done with ours is there are 5 petitioners who are going to be picking the initial 9 commissioners. Okay? So those 9 commissioners are going to be setting up the industry, setting bylaws, setting up the industry, and make sure things are done a certain way. So those first initial 9 commissioners are critical to this. Inside this ballot language, under the commission, if you look at E, there's one spot. And you see how it's set up, that the proposed regulations shall support, uphold, defend the rights. Section 1, it shall include provisions for the protection of arrest, prosecution of eligible residents, providers, and other entities to provide legal access to medical cannabis for the best benefit of eligible residents. That's, you can't, they're going to have to go against this, and then the judges get involved. You know, that's one spot. There's other spots in here too where we require the commission to keep the patient's rights first.
There's a composition of the commission too, wasn't it?
I'm sorry?
The composition of the commission, wasn't there something about patients being on it? Or was that?
Yes, 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 yes. We have 3, we're starting off with just 3 residents because nobody's declared a patient. But there are, everybody, all the commissioners have a vested interest in seeing this continue. For example, a grower's not going to want to mess that up. 3 patients, 2 attorneys, doctors, like right down the line. I think somebody even with a retail store owner we decided to put that in. So we have people that want this to continue. And like, if there's a Republican governor in or Democratic governor in, that when they start picking the commissioners, there can only be 4 of one political party. So there's 9 commissioners, only 4. So we always make sure that there's a, you know, another representation there besides the 2 major parties.
So just to be sure, like under this, no matter what, a patient, as long as they're an adult, would still be able to grow their own, no matter what regulation this commission passes, they'd still be allowed for their own consumption.
There's multiple reasons for that. It's not only, you know, of course it's for the patient, of course it's very important, but it's also, I believe, as I see it, is for the taxpayer. And I say that because we know that we're paying taxes, and you have somebody who's very sick and in a wheelchair, for example, like my friend Dawn, who's a very sick person, and she gets aid dependent children. Okay, so if she gets so much money in aid dependent children, we don't want her to use that money to go buy $300 worth of cannabis. We'd rather her use that money for her food, her health care, her children, right? And grow her their own. It just makes common sense from a taxpayer perspective to keep things flowing and all the money not going into the marijuana industry, because ultimately it comes down to the taxpayer paying for it. That's, you know, the whole thing we're dealing with Medicaid, Medicare. That's all the taxpayer paying for. And that's all drugs. know, very intriguing to me is when we do change these laws, how's Medicare and Medicaid gonna, what's gonna happen there? People won't need as many prescription drugs.
I guess like my question is like kind of we saw with California, we saw a lot of the medical industry actually came down against Proposition 19 to protect their own business interests. We're kind of creating an industry with this. Like,
Absolutely.
isn't it kind of, don't they have a vested interest to see legalization not happen at that point? So like, yeah, you're getting the patients off the battlefield, but you're also creating a very large, almost corporate interest at that point against legalization. Like, it's
No, because it's not gonna be corporate, this will be small businessmen, only these dispensaries, or food
yeah, but
festivals.
together they have a very large vested interest in keeping medical marijuana the way it is, and for them as a business owner, like they don't want to see.
Well,
them
then,
get put out of
and then
business.
now I want you to think about what happened yesterday, and look back at what happened yesterday, and see how their brother and sisters got arrested or got shut down, because they didn't vote for full legalization. So did greed take over? I don't know what the answer is, what if they did go for full legalization all these years ago. We don't know what the answer is. We don't know. We can just keep trying to push forward while creating rights for our patients. Now, if all of citizens of Ohio have these rights in 4 years from now, so be it. But right now, we've got to take the sick guy off the path.
I guess my big criticism is like the assumption that we have to have this regulation, like the market's not going to provide that, because we've seen California, like for-profit labs have started up and dispensaries have had their product tested at these labs to see what's in them and stuff. Why do we have to have a government?
Okay, so
Like-
this is what, thank you for asking that, but that's another thing right there. I personally, for being a sick person, I want me tested. I want an Ohio business, maybe who has a degree from the weed department at Ohio University, running a place where it gets tested. Heck yeah, I do. Not only for my safety, but if it was my parents' safety, my children's safety, my grandparents' safety, and think of all those jobs that are going to be created. We set this up right. With smart people from Ohio, we can create quite an industry with so many jobs and protect our patients and keep the profit margins right, but still make sure that everybody gets what they need because it's a plant. You can just grow more. I could foresee a hedge fund. I can foresee, remember, I think, I don't know much about it, some guy one time tried to explain to me 17 times at a bar, and I didn't get it. So. They were talking about the pig futures, hog futures, and all that stuff, and corn futures, and all of that. Why not? Why not? We don't know what's going to come up. We are, again, like I said, throwing glitter in the air to say what can happen when we do this. And my belief is that a lot more wellness will happen. A balance of the body, the chemistry of a homeostasis.
Yeah, and as a baby step in the right, I'm an advocate for decriminalization, personally, libertarian. But, like schools getting rated, so you can't have studies, you can't prove that it's not harmful. I guess if you can grow your own too, that wouldn't be regulated per se.
Sure, if you don't just want to take care of your own.
Or you can, it's not going to destroy the black market either, probably, for people who use it for other reasons. But, at least taking steps in the right direction. Plus, I think the language is more palatable to people who have to grow your everyday citizen. They want to see some safeguards and whatnot.
Yeah, and we probably need them. We do. If things are unforeseen, what can happen in the future, we don't know. But that's another beauty of our ballot language, because we set up a commission that can fluctuate. Again, this commission is called the Commission of Cannabis Control. So think about that. All around, we got hemp, the cannabis plant, marijuana. It's just a small part of that cannabis plant. Very, very small percentage. Hemp is a huge percentage. So we did not take our commission and limit it. We made sure we could keep it. If 150 years from now they finally legalize hemp, guess what? We have a Commission of Cannabis Control. So we really are trying to see everything with the foresight that will help our children, our grandchildren, and future generations to make sure that our patients they get what they need. and then hopefully be able to fluctuate and change as needed. I mean, the commission can change it up. All of a sudden we have this, if somehow the government says no more scheduling of this at all, it's over with, done. Oh, the patients are so productive, and we have the commission to deal with it.
You talk, like, this commission would control all cannabis in Ohio, and it's like, the 9 people are from the current medical commission, like, say hemp is legalized, then that's a huge vested interest not to have hemp in Ohio because you can't grow medical when there's hemp growing around you. You have to filter all of the incoming air, get all of that pollen out. Like, that's a huge vested interest not to have hemp at that point. Like,
Well, I'm sure that the commission will be able to look at everything, and with having the Ohio State Agricultural Center and really looking at their research and what they recommend and the way to do it, I'm sure the commission can work with maybe there should be inside and there should be, they'll be able to set up these rules and regulations.
I just don't understand why they would want to. Like, what is their incentive to do that when they're not involved in that industry? Like, we're, like, the people on the commission right now, we'd have, like, growers, we'd have retail owners, like, you said there'd be, what, a patient? And you have all these people, but none of them seem to have an interest in hemp. Why would they have an interest then?
Right now, it's not an issue. We're looking really just to push something for that. If there is some type of change, I'm sure that we'll be able to work with everything. Strictly registered voters that are notifications. I think that if federal law dictates that hemp is now legalized in Ohio and around the nation, I'm sure that the commission will work with it. I don't think anybody can think about it. I really think they're going to say no. It's part of how I see it, what I see hemp anyway. And when you bring to them the proper evidence, the proper medical evidence, and hopefully what they're going to be able to get is that, and I've used this before, that we have a corn-based diet. Corn-based diet, sugar-based diet, have perfect protein-fat ratio for human consumption. How do you think that that's an atom, just a small percentage of it, a little bud pops out. That does things to the body. That must be really bad. So I think that I understand what you're saying, and it's a fear that could happen, but that's the fear that's causing us not to legalize the plant. Something could happen, could happen.
I'm just not favoring giving the government more power by, like, legalizing this. I'm not necessarily favoring or giving them that much more power over an industry, like, that really they shouldn't have their hands in anymore. Like, they shouldn't have had their hands in the first place. They should have just left hemp alone. We've been growing it for thousands of years. Why do we need a government that all of a sudden for the last 100 years tell us what to do with this plant? Is what I don't understand.
Well, and that there's a very valid argument, but then we also look at what's going on in Ohio. This is the whole political atmosphere that we're in. It's what we have to do to get things done. That's what it is. And by protecting our patients first, before everything else, and before the commission, patients are protected. That's number one, and that's what our goal was to do. But I do understand. I understand. But why do we have to have rules and regulations? My kids ask me that too. It's kind of what it is, so that we can create structure, so that we can tax this herb. In the Ohio Revised Code, medicinal herbs are taxed. When this gets taxed, we don't have to shut down so many schools. I don't have a problem with paying tax on my medicine if I know that there's going to be more teachers. It's not just in my community, it's very lucky that we didn't lose teachers, but the African American communities lose teachers left, right, and backwards. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with less people going to jail because of it, and then because the rules and regulations are set up. Less people going to jail, making sure. Ashburn County has 2 police officers in the entire county. I think that's horrible.
Especially with all the meth items.
In our press conference last week, we had a press conference in Columbus, and if you guys saw, we were on TV, our general counsel was on TV. It was really fun. But there was a LAPD officer who spoke of our ballot language, which is really good. But then he spoke of what's going on in California, and he kind of freaked me out. It actually freaked me out a lot. He said that the cartels now in California are taking meth and putting it in marijuana. And at first I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I don't think so. And then I thought back. And about 6 weeks ago, there was just this huge meth bust in Mexico. huge, tons of meth. So now I'm wondering, you know, if they want to get people addicted, they want to, that's kind of it. You get kids to buy pot, black market pot off the street that has meth in it. Use that stuff one time.
Why would anyone actually do that? I mean, that's cutting the profit margin. That's basic economics. No one would ever do that.
Hey, this came from a LA deputy chief of police.
Lost leader.
But then what about next time they buy? What happens if they buy from somebody different? Like that strategy doesn't make sense. Yeah, but they're hooked once and then they go buy weed from somebody else not realizing there was meth in it. Like, then they're hooked on a drug that they can't get again. How does that help their customer base?
Honestly, I don't, this was told to me by a deputy chief police officer in Los Angeles. But I just thought about it and I thought, my goodness, really? Really?
I think maybe that's because it's illegal. I mean, he talks about the economics of it. Yeah, if you've got people who just want dopamine, they want to be addicts from getting meth. I mean, that's a different market than the people who want to smoke weed. But when they're both illegal, they get mixed up together. And if we make marijuana legal, I think it will separate the two more.
It could be a loss leader, it could just be propaganda.
Yeah, it could be scare tactics. That's what they're doing in Ohio. That's what I think, you know, I heard our opposition was saying that there's going to be chaos. But there's going to be chaos. I'm so excited. Implementing an industry, if we do it properly and we do it intellectually, and we take our time and take the steps to do it properly, isn't chaos. It's exciting. Think about all the excitement. Think about all the entrepreneurs. What the chaos is going to be people thinking of how they're going to be able to make money in this industry. You know, people thinking, how can I help another person? This is medical marijuana, okay? How am I going to help somebody? What can I cook that somebody who has cancer will like? Okay? How can I make it affordable? How can I make it, maybe if I put ginger in it, it'll help your tummy. Maybe I'll study other herbs. There's so much that can happen, you know, when we give people the opportunity. And with this industry, the numbers that we're looking at right now is an $860 million a year industry. And then we're also adding on that taxes, permits and licensing. If we believe in permits and licensing now, one of the issues that I saw out west where they have problems with some of these permits are going for ridiculous amounts of money. Ridiculous. Like you can't afford like $100,000. You know, the licenses. That's out. That you can't do that as a small business. So you know, we did the best we could to protect in the language where we keep it reasonable. But yeah, our group also believes in the small businessman so that other people can. We want our businessmen to succeed. We don't want a pharmaceutical company to come in and take over all the stores. We want our small businessmen to succeed. We don't want all of our neighbors to succeed. Some of the people I'm working with want to put Ohio in a little bubble and say, okay, let's get our businessmen working. Let's get our farmers working. Let's get our researchers working and our scientists studying this and our doctors. So, you know, and get the testing facility, you know, because I love that. Love that. Get a school like Oosterdam. Why not? Why not? Let's invite them. Come on out here. Come teach us. Teach us what you know. You've been doing this for 15 years. Let's use their education and learn as much as we can from them so that we can succeed for us, for you guys' future. I see you guys. I have 5 kids. My little 9-year-old and almost 8-year-old, you know, I walked into the elementary school and I see all these little kids in there. You know, and look at you guys and kids your guys' age too, and it's your guys' future. I think how much will it change if this plant is free, if we're able to study it, so we understand what it's doing for the body. I look at all those little kids in my other kids' school, and you know, we go in, they're all little kids, it's so cute, right? And then I have thought to myself how many times, my goodness, if we don't get this passed, how many of these kids are going to end up being addicts? How many of these kids are going to end up on Oxy or end up on Percocets? And then, I mean, how many stories have I heard where the kids, they start on that, the next thing you know, they're on heroin. You know, and then they're in rehab or they're dead. We just lost one of our teammates on OMCA, a young girl who helped us collect signatures in the commissary. She had drug. She got off all of her opiates and drugs. And unfortunately, she fell back too. She died last week. You know? think she started on pills, on narcotics. To hear how many, it doesn't matter what class, what socioeconomic class you're in. I recently heard of somebody who's very wealthy, and he had celiac disease. The doctor gives him OxyContin. Next thing you know, he's out west in rehab. It's scary stuff right now. I would be scared if I was you guys to take any of those drugs. Right now, you guys are forced to have opiate-based medicine. I want to make it so that you can have cannabinoid-based medicine in the future. There's no reason that we should be giving these opiates to children, adults, our parents, our grandparents. There's no reason to give them this type of pills that are going to change the brain chemistry to make it an addict when we have cannabinoids right there in front of us. And we should use them and study them. Any other questions?
I got one.
Sure.
First of all, you were talking about differentiating the certain drugs. I was wondering, like, what about, like, if there becomes a market for, like, just THC or just CBD, what's going to happen then? Do you think that there's going to be some, I don't know, restrictions placed on THC, or do you think there's going to be, like, more people are going to, like, the doctors and stuff are going to side with just the CBD, or?
Well, I have a hard time telling anybody who's sick, dying, and in severe pain, or is facing imminent death, that little high is bad for them. I have a hard time saying that. So when that comes down the line, I guess the doctors, and hopefully our great doctors in the state of Ohio, will look at that in as relevance with the other things that CBDs do, like anti-inflammation. So I would hope that they would look at all aspects of this plant. But there might be the person that only wants to have the CBDs. There might be somebody who only gets help with whatever their condition is with only the THC. So, we have to study it to find out what it is.
Also, I wanted to say, when I was younger, like second grade and stuff, I was prescribed Ritalin, and I wasn't in control of myself on that stuff. And I believe it contributed to 2 of my seizures that I had in my lifetime. Not everybody says they have gone through something like that, so I had it like once when I was awake and once when I was unconscious, so I guess I know what it feels like. But I just wanted to say that I feel like medical cannabis does work as a medicine, and like you hear about stories like Rick Simpson, if you've heard about him, and different people like that who try to, make a movement and everything, and try to legitimize everything and bring the access to the patients. But the federal government just keeps on, overstepping their boundaries, and, going into California, you saw what happened over there. They wasted their resources, and 7 deaths could have been prevented in that school shooting in Oakland. Same city, same morning, about the same time, but nothing was done. Instead, they waste their resources on going after a man's business who has to sit in a wheelchair, but he runs his business and it's legitimate, and he's been running it since 2007, and unfortunately it was raided Monday morning that same day. So
one of the things, again, a lot of times I hear federal government, right? You hear federal government. Again, I repeat what I just learned. The FDA wants it studied. The IMA wants it studied. There are parts of the federal government that wants it studied. As somebody said to me today, DEA went rogue. Really, think about that. The DEA. How are they taking care of medicine? How do they know what medicine is? For God's sakes, look what they did in Ohio. Look at Ohio with the pill mills. Why aren't they in here looking at the pill mills? Instead they're out in California raiding. I know they just brought a couple federal agents in here, but they should have done that 4 years ago. It's whatever they're doing, it's not right. They need to change their focus and start redefining what dangerous is. Because dangerous to me is deadly. Dangerous is lethal, right? Seriously, that's what dangerous is lethal. So marijuana, is it dangerous? Maybe the government, maybe the DEA knows something we don't know. I don't know, what is it? What could the DEA know we don't know?
Like, for people who didn't know, I fell and broke my face. But the first thing I did when they did
Can I repeat that? She fell and broke her face. You guys didn't hear it.
Okay. Anyway, first thing they did when I went in there was gave me morphine, which really didn't do anything. I was in a lot of pain. But and then before I went home, the first thing they did was write me a prescription for Percocet, and then I went and they wrote me another prescription for Percocet, and then they're like, "Do you need more pain pills?" Do you think, with hospitals, maybe it might be different when people come in with these things? If maybe we could find something that we could give patients for immediate total, not so much total pain relief, but kind of do what morphine does, but not.
I'm very intrigued with that. Yeah, I'm really, really intrigued with that. And again, that's cannabinoid sciences and cannabinoid-based medicine. I would love that, but in order for us to get to that point, we have to be able to
It would have been
study
a lot
this plan.
nicer if I would have gone in there and they would have given me something
Natural.
yeah, instead of morphine.
I'm also curious, when you broke your face,
Yeah.
if you use, I have so many questions about this plant, it's insane. If you use the medicine right after, would you have healed more? Would your bones have healed more? Would your blood be different? Would everything be different if right after you got hurt?
Actually, I talked to my doctor about it, and he's from Amsterdam. The guy who did my surgery is from Amsterdam.
Very cool.
So he was like, by all means, do what you gotta do. He goes, but I fully believe in medical cannabis, because I was talking about the campaign with him for a minute. And he's like, I fully believe in medical cannabis. And I wholeheartedly believe that I don't think I would have healed this quickly,
I've heard that from multiple people, and there's no studies to prove it.
Yeah.
So again, to go right back over to,
And there was no swelling, well, there was a little bit of swelling, but no bruising.
yeah, I find that my inflammation goes down quite a bit.
And not only was she using it, my other two roommates one of them has Crohn's disease, which his doctor straight up told him that you should use marijuana. The second has medical marijuana in Ohio, you'll have a prescription. And then my other roommate actually got shot in the eye, so has pretty much the equivalent of glaucoma, where he has to keep his eye pressure down. And they keep giving him all these eye drops and medications that really don't do anything for him. They're very expensive, and he has to use them religiously. Whereas marijuana keeps his pressure way more regulated, and he's actually had instances where he has partial vision from being under the influence of marijuana.
Yeah, so one of my friends is a patient, she's in Oregon, and she gets 360 joints a month from the federal government, and she has glaucoma, and she has to keep a certain level in her system so she doesn't finish losing her eyesight. So, yeah, to keep certain levels in your system, it's just like any other drug. They say to you, with Advil, you have to take it every 8 hours, and da-da-da-da. Well, why wouldn't the verb basically be the same? Which is, with our ballot language, really intriguing part is, I think it was great. I'm really excited about it. But it's the second page. Actually, it's there. We talk about the testing for driving, for drunk driving, or for any type of testing. You will not be considered under the influence of cannabis by your metabolites in your body. It has to be scientific proof of impairment. So, that's very different than any other state, but we've gotten some wonderful feedback on that from National Drug Policy that believes that statement is going to be very powerful in the future.
Another note on what it can do, I would take 1 or 2 Percocet, and pain kind of dulled a tiny bit, just so I could function, but nothing else took the pain away completely, which is extraordinary, and it doesn't make sense why it's illegal.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. We're getting ready to get on. I don't know if you guys are on our Facebook or if you guys are signed up on our volunteer list. We have a volunteer letter going out tomorrow. It's supposed to go out today, but it's going tomorrow. But it's setting up for super volunteers in different areas. And if you have any special skills, you're working with the Progress Ohio people to get your areas set up and get the proper training done. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're signed up. And you should be hearing a lot more from us. We're taking the right steps. We're following the leader because we have a great, phenomenal team that now has come on with us. They're amazing, and they touch all different political spheres. So it's just intriguing to watch them work and to watch, just to watch the magic happen. And with this campaign, it's just been kind of like one thing after the next happening. Every day I wake up to see what kind of excitement is going to happen. Today was the double thumbs up day, so lots of good stuff.
Look forward to the day when my daughter gets to lead the initiative to repeal the cannabis commission.
You know, like the cannabis culture.
No, it's great right now. Hopefully it'll be done by with some. Need any of that?
I can understand that,
I'm
but
not
then,
here against it.
well, no, but I look at it like, how else are we going to make sure that it's tested? How else are we going to make sure that it's implemented?
It could be your alternative to the FDA situation where you could buy state-approved drugs, or if you wanted the option, you could buy non-approved drugs and assume your own risk.
And you what? Assume your own risk?
Yeah.
But see, what I look at with that is you got a grandmother who goes in with cancer, and I personally would like to make sure that you go to a store that has all the rules taken care of.
You don't trust her.
My grandmother? Not if you're in constraints. No, not to know. Where are you going to get it from? Again, where are you going to get it from?
Well, in the future.
In the future.
Hopefully it's
You grow your own, neighbor.
Yeah.
Under this system, you're saying that you need this to protect grandma, but we've learned from history that government can't protect us from ourselves. When it tries to do that, we get tyranny. So why can't we have the free-market alternative where you have that choice? You have the regulated alternative like California, where you can go to a dispensary that tests their stuff through a lab that has a good reputation, and you can make that choice as a consumer, or you can go to the cheap dispensary that advertises in the back of a magazine and says $25 for any of the cheapest stuff on the street. You have that choice as a consumer. Why should the government be making that choice for us?
We also look again at the political area that we're in, and we live in Ohio. I don't say what's going to pass, because this is not written on what's going to pass. But the reality is what each one is the right thing. It's what we believe is the right thing to happen to protect patients. Again, we're trying to just solely protect patients, and with this, we do have a system of patients being able to grow their own. So we're looking more towards regulatory system for somebody similar to me that wants that, but you still have the flexibility to grow your own, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think rather than maybe implementing testing on the plant itself, or is there kind of saying say a place is all organized and whatnot, they do testing and whatnot, the market itself would wean out the not so great companies or businesses that are selling cheap and untested products, and I don't know. And as far as testing goes, you could possibly even promote universities to do testing on it rather than creating a whole other organization.
I want another business. I would love that. I would
If it
rather
was
be
private,
I would love
that'd be
more.
great, but
Yeah. Wouldn't you love to have a business where they come in and test, and you're able to employ people to come in and work, and then they can be, imagine that, going to work every day, place where you're testing pot.
As long as it's not a captive industry.
As long as it's not a what?
Captive industry.
What do you mean, captive industry?
As long as it's voluntary. So, but
Yes.
my daughter's only 7 months old, so it's good. I'm looking long term.
20
This is
years,
great language for
27
now.
years.
I agree with it for now. That was kind of a joke.
Yeah, that's cool, though, that's cool. Thank you for letting me know she's a little baby still. I'm like, oh no, she's coming.
No. Although she is a quick learner, but yeah.
Well, yeah, we just kind of, we're trying to, we can't just go from a nothing system to say it's everywhere. I don't want that to happen. I have 5 kids. I don't want that to happen. I don't. This is something that we're learning about. What Gary Johnson also stated is that he believes, similar to alcohol, that everybody's going to be going to the stores to get it, because anybody can make their own wine and anybody can make their own beer. He believes eventually that there are going to be retail stores for people to be able to go and get that. And he thinks that's the way, and that's what's going to happen.
biggest thing here. There are sick, dying people that are being exploited. We need to stop doing that and just protect them and let them have the right to use essential medicine. I use this example, and I use it over and over and over again. I was allowed to have 360 Percocets in my house a month. But if I grow one cannabis plant, they can take my children from me. That's child endangering. Are you kidding me? That's not child endangering. It's not at all. Having all of those pills in the house is child endangering. So,
They're not gonna go and eat a plant.
they wouldn't die if they ate the plant. That's, not that, I don't want them to go eat a plant. I don't want anybody to lock it up and keep it, but you're not gonna die.
Yeah.
You eat something out of the pill thing, you're done. Damn. So not that I'm condoning their children, but I also look now at the kids that have autism, that are banging their heads against walls and they have to wear helmets. And then you see them have a cookie and they're able to interact with their family members.
That's weird. I like cookies.
But you guys know, it's ridiculous not to study it. For the child, for the mother, for the father, for the siblings. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's cruel not to study it.
You said that you focus on protecting patients and keeping them submission
Yes.
plans, but are you equally focusing on entrepreneurs and businesses and some other aspects of the industry?
We are concentrating on the entire thing, yes. We are overlooking the entire thing. Patients' rights are first, though. Because if we keep the ultimate goal of this is to keep patients' rights. But yes, we want to make sure we want everybody to succeed because of this industry. We want to make it so that people can succeed. Because if you succeed as my neighbor, then the neighbor succeeds and the neighbor succeeds. We want everybody to be able to get involved to the best of their ability, to be able to learn. One of the people that we do require on our commission is somebody from the Civil Rights Commission. Most other states go to the health department and implement medical marijuana under the health department. We chose not to do that. We believe, at least I know where I live, my health department is very worked hard. And by forcing all of these sick patients into the health department is where we're going to stress a taxed group in the counties. So what we did is we pulled a member in from the Civil Rights Commission. Now from the research that I've done, what I've learned about the Civil Rights Commission is they are empowered to do education. That's what they do. It would be great to see some education coming out of the Civil Rights Commission on the cannabis company. And that would be really good.
You mentioned in the OMCA's bill, well, in the language, in the wording, that patients shouldn't be discriminated. I was wondering, in certain cases, there has been hospitals where they have discriminated certain patients who needed like organ transplants, and basically what happened it was kind of a death sentence because they didn't let them get the organ transplants, so the patient would die because they found like cannabinoids in their system. What I'm asking is there anything in the OMCA bill that is going to prevent that?
Well, we did put the discriminatory clause in there. So yeah, you can't be discriminated against. That's what we're looking at. I mean, just because you have cannabis in your system, that's that chemical bigotry I was talking about.
I was just wondering if that only applied to the, driving or also to the hospitals.
Discrimination, so. I actually was really big. Said I'm getting it in there because I don't want my children taken from me. Why should I be discriminated against? Because I prefer to have cannabinoids in my system rather than opiates. So that was me being selfish, but then it also ties over to any of the other things that the judges choose to tie over to, I guess. But the one part about child custody, I don't know if you guys realize this, but in California right now there was just a mother. The baby was like 2-3 months old. They were both card carriers, and they were growing a couple plants. While she was pregnant, the DEA or somebody came in, whoever the people are that go for checking. They came into their house, they saw she was pregnant, had another kid, they were card carriers, they were following the rules. Well, a couple weeks, maybe the baby was 6 weeks old, maybe even younger than that, you guys. The DA came in for a raid with that little brand new baby in there. They ripped that baby out of mom's arms, took the baby there. foster care, or the other kid in foster care, if that lasted for 5 months. You know, are you kidding me? You don't think that affected that mother and that baby for the rest of their lives? So, you know, that's what they did. Absolutely horrible. There was a protest today in San Francisco for that. So, you know, will our putting children in danger will always come ahead of anything. So if you put child in danger, it's always going to come ahead of this, okay? But again, that's where my philosophy is, that we have to look at the definition of what dangerous is. But I would hire an attorney to use this language to try and get my kids back if somebody tried to take them from me. I would say that I was being discriminated against. So, but I think that somebody also with organ transplants would be able to use that also.
I just wanted to ask about the discrimination stuff because, like, I know in certain states, like with employment, like that's another issue. Like the Walmart employee in Michigan, I think his name was Cassini, or he got fired for, he was like a legitimate state authorized medical marijuana user in Michigan, and I don't think he did it on the job or anything like that, but they ended up firing him anyway because it was in his system. They made him do a drug test. So, but I just wanted to mention that for that reason as well. So.
Well, I know Ohio is an at-will state, so that means you're going to get fired at will. Honestly, I mean, that's just kind of what the way the laws are. So it doesn't matter if you have medical cannabis in your body or not, you can still get fired. So because of that, we can't set new rules and regulations to change it being an at-will state. So it's going to be up to each employer what they'll tolerate. And as the science emerges and as it continues, I'm assuming that employers will continue to hopefully they will look at what's going on and change their policies and adjust their policies accordingly. Good. So we're going to be, our next big one, we're having another press conference in Cincinnati next week. So we'll be out there, and then we should hopefully be getting one in Cleveland the week after that, and one in Athens, and then we'll hopefully start collecting our signatures. And I know that some of our press conferences will be releasing some of who our endorsers are, so look for big things coming down the line. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody coming.